Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 30th, 2021 at approximately 5:10 p.m. PST. I'm going to make an attempt at doing this a little bit off time because normally I get this done when I'm not on shift. Well, shift is a little quiet, so if I have to, I will put this on pause and I will explain that as I go along. Fortunately, I figured out how to do that. Anyway, to say the least, the heat wave continues. So if I look like I'm melting, it's only because I am. Okay, with that in mind, it doesn't change much of anything else. You as in you, if you're watching this video, or myself as well, it is up to us to change this world for what is essentially the better. As in lack of war, lack of famine. We have to realize that everybody, the message that I returned to pass on to people was real simple. Every single individual in existence is starting at exactly the same place right now. However you got to where you are right where you are. And this is the only time in your life that you can change anything. So if you're not content with the way your life is going, no matter what path you're on, you're the only one that can actually alter it. Most people have some form of spiritual path they're on, some sort of spiritual guideline, be it following a stable church, be it following a coven, a temple, just a support group. There are many people out there that literally claim they are atheists. They don't believe in a higher power. And they may well. I'm not one to tell people what they should believe or what they shouldn't. The only thing I'm saying is, regardless of where you come from, regardless of how you got to where you are, it is absolutely critical you realize that everybody is of equal value. And if you follow a simple 3 karmic laws, be true to yourself, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, energy out, energy in. If you follow those 3 karmic laws, everything can actually work out reasonably well. Okay, now this said, how about a thumbs up for the video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget when you subscribe to the channel to hit that little alarm button to let you know when the newest videos come out, because I have a tendency of putting one out a day if at all possible. Since March 26th of this year, I've only missed 4 or 5 days. And in all fairness, a lot of that had to do with the fact that I tried doing it. What I do is I end up getting sidetracked, I wait till too late at night, and then all of a sudden I ran out of steam and couldn't get it done anyway. So, if you hear the phone ring, I put it over there. If you hear the phone ring, okay, and I all of a sudden have to go, that's because I'm still on shift. Okay, but I will let you know when I get back. Okay, because all I'll do is pause the video and then let you know why there's a glitch. Now, understand, this is a live recording, meaning I do not go back and edit anything. I go back, I double check to make sure I got the date on the video right, and then I carry on and just post it as is. So any hiccups that I do, any missed phrases that I do, that's just me. If you ever run into me in person, you'll find I talk exactly the same way. Okay, meaning I may trip over my own words, I may double back. Some of the obvious words to me that I double back on is if I say I can't do something. 90% of the time I'll turn around and go, well, I could do it, it's just not a good idea, so I'm not going to. Okay, and if you look at the subset of videos I've got, turns out I've only got, I think, 3 or 4 of them done, so I've got to get on those. But the subset is called language. And it identifies the reasons that certain words don't work. They are self-deprecating. Okay, so I do encourage you to go back into my videos and take a look at that subset. One specific that I know is there is the word can't. Okay, now understand it doesn't matter how many tools you're given. If you don't pick the tools up, they are totally useless. Okay, the best carpenter tools on the planet are absolutely useless if a carpenter doesn't pick them up. Needless to say, we are melting here. This is what I was referring to. We are still sitting at 44 Celsius, which I think it's 44 right now, which boils down to about 110 Fahrenheit. Okay, so I mean, all in all, we are a bit of a mess. But the reason that I'm giving you these tools, and it's been done before, okay, peace can be attained on this planet. We do not have to remain at war with each other. Children are not born greedy. They are not born selfish. Okay, they are born fearful, but that is a self-defense mechanism. But people are taught fear. They are taught prejudice. They are taught greed. Okay, and no matter how old you are at this stage in your life, because you are alive, I'm not the only one that can pass this message. This message, the reason I returned is to pass this message on to everybody. Because it did not take one person to turn this world into a bit of a cesspool. Okay, it took a lot of years. Quite frankly, it took a lot of centuries. Okay, and because of that, it's going to take us time to get it turned around. But with guidance, you can make it happen faster. Think of it this way. Try learning to ride a bike without any guidance. It's difficult. You have to figure out all the hiccups. Try learning to speak without guidance. It's a royal pain. But with guidance, you can do it. Now, this being said, I am not one to tell you whether your belief is right, wrong, or indifferent, but I will tell you this. If your belief structure places any individual as worth more than you, or worth more than, well, truly worth more than you, or places you on a pedestal above other people, understand, all of creation was made equal. Okay, it all has the same rights, and you are all part of a very big, I won't call it a plan, but a very big interconnected system. Okay, the food chain, whether you like it or not, applies to you. Okay, and mankind has to realize that if they don't stop messing things up, they're going to offset the food chain, and then Mother Nature is going to play absolute havoc. Okay, in case you hadn't noticed, when we have fires, it dislodges people. And the fire doesn't care who you voted for. They don't care what your gender is. They don't care what your skin color is. I mean, you think about it in practical terms, skin color, skin pigmentation is still black when it gets burnt to a crisp. Okay, it still turns into glop when it decays. So you got to remember, when mankind plays, when you play around with the energy flow, when you start trying to modify things to make them better, mankind just frankly has not figured out the reality. Nature works in a very specific fashion. Okay. Now, I came to an understanding a long time ago, and I know this is going to upset some of the people that are educated. Myself, I graduated. Okay. Against the odds, I graduated. When I went to college, I quite frankly failed. Okay. It doesn't change the fact that, in my opinion, and check this one out for yourself, the theoretical theory of relativity, which is E equals mc squared, it is a good mathematical equation, but it is not, in my opinion, the theory of relativity. Okay, and I will be more than happy to explain it in detail, but the reality of it is, from my standpoint, the theory of relativity is actually very simple. 1 plus 1 equals 3. It is not a mathematical equation. Okay, it is a relativity issue. Now, E equals mc squared is a mathematical equation. Okay, now I know I'm going to get a whole pile of flack for that comment because, well, frankly, that's what it says in the books. That's what mathematicians have been working with for, for generations. And I have no doubt they have been. Doesn't mean they've been working with the right formula. Okay, and who am I to say it's the wrong formula? That's the easy part. I'm R. Keith Andrews, a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. My information that I sit on is gained from personal experience. It has nothing to do with what I learned in college or what I learned in school. Okay, but I will tell you this. Every tool that I do offer is a tool that if it applies to my life, I am using it. If it doesn't apply to my life, I've been working in the consulting field for personal, business, and UFO related issues since I was 10 years old, as far as public acknowledgement went. Professionally, as in generating an income, I've been doing it for, well, since 1986. And that said, I've got, roughly speaking, 80,000 clients under my belt. Now, that calculation was done some 5-6 years ago, so undoubtedly it's higher than that. Okay, but the reality of it from my standpoint is real simple. When we work together, when we realize that no matter where you come from, you still have the same issue. Every living organism, every living being that I'm aware of is born in one fashion or another. Most of them have parents, except for ones that are literally capable of reproducing through, I believe it's called meiosis. Of course, I could be wrong on the name. Like I said, my biological education came in a very short form. I had 2 months in science, if that, in grade 8. Okay, now, the reality is, if, or more to the point, when we work together, when we start treating other people, other things, other creatures, other entities as we ourselves desire to be treated, that is when the world starts to change for the better. Now, people have talked for a couple of years now about this whole issue of post-COVID, and then keep going, I want it to go back to the way it was. I'll tell you, I am dead set against it going back to the way it was, because the way it was before COVID hit was fear, debauchery, and greed. I would just as soon see those go away. Now, I would like this heat wave to stop. That would be nice. Okay. But to say the least, that's not happening anytime soon. Well, actually, I think it's only got about a week left, if the weather forecast is correct. But it is time for all of us to start working together. Start reaching out, start communicating with people. Now, absolutely, I'm not telling you drop whatever religion you're following. I'm just not doing that. I will tell you, if you're following a spiritual guide or a religious leader that is telling you to fear your creator, is telling you that you are a better individual than somebody else, you may be walking down a very complicated problem. Okay, you could be walking into a path that is really not healthy. Okay, another warning. If you're following somebody that is saying the material world is pointless, it's all fun, that's evil, the material world is evil. Okay, and then they turn around and say, give us all your stuff. Donate your stuff to us, and we'll call it tithing. Okay, you give it to us because it's evil. We'll deal with it. Okay, now, I'm all for tithing. I really am. But here's the kicker to it. Tithing is a great thing. Okay, but it's only a great thing if it goes to the people you're trying to do that with. Unfortunately, and this is why I have been very adamant, and anybody talks to me about it, well, why won't you donate to an actual registered charity? The reason I won't is because the amount of administrative costs that actually go to these things put a very small percentage of the money that is needed to go to the charities, that the people that really require it, it absolutely goes the wrong direction. Okay. Now, like, it doesn't get to the charity. Now, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. This is my belief structure in this case. So the way I deal with charity is I help the people I run into. Okay, that way I know if I give somebody $10 because they're having trouble, that $10, the entire 100% of that $10 goes to that charitable act. Okay, this is why I do not give to the big charities myself. Now, the big charities have one advantage, and that is that they can get to places that need it. Okay, they can get to the places that are further away. Personally, I'm a firm believer that helping the starving people is absolutely imperative, and I do encourage that to continue. But taking care of the people in your own neighborhood will do a number of things. Number one, it stabilizes the economy around you. It cuts down on crime because a lot of crime is a lot of it is based on necessity. Crime is a lousy path. Okay. But when you've got people that are stealing because they're starving to death, it's not that it's a good path, but it is an understandable one. Okay. And no, I do not condone theft in any fashion. Okay, of course, in all fairness, I don't condone waste either. And this is something that people have to realize is that working, or it would be really nice if they realized, working together, we can eliminate famine. Okay, but there's a couple of things that have to happen in order to do that effectively, especially in what people keep calling and telling me are first world countries, which really seems to mean they've got better toys than the other places. Okay, but if there are laws in place that are going, well, you can sue somebody for this, I can understand the issue of suing if you're talking about negligence and what have you. What does not make sense is why there are apparently laws in existence stopping people from giving food from restaurants that are licensed restaurants making food. Why there seem to be laws in place that say you can't give your leftovers to the starving. I do not personally understand that. And I would love it if somebody could explain it in terms that made any sense at all. I can understand it with governments going, okay, if you're just a general person and you're making homemade food, if it's not tested, if it's not done properly, you can't give it away. Because the potential for doing something really screwy is pretty good. But if you're dealing with a licensed restaurant, a licensed grocery store, and they've got stuff that they've got that is past a certain point, or in the case of restaurants, really, if you're dealing with leftover food that was being sold, what is the harm in giving it to the starving? What is the problem with giving it to the people that cannot afford to go into the restaurant if the restaurant owner desires to do that? This is not to say make it law that the restaurant owner has to do that. Only take away the law that says they're not allowed to. Okay. Again, this is an issue of do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay. For instance, if you don't desire people to lie to you, don't lie to them. Okay, now it doesn't guarantee that you won't get lied to, but it does stack the deck in your favor. Now, I'm not the one to talk to about political correctness because I found out a long time ago. What I discovered is most of the time, so-called political correctness leads to misunderstandings and leads to miscommunication. Therefore, I'm just blunt. Okay. Now, people ask me a question, I'll give you a straightforward answer. Like I remember one person was complaining to me about, well, he literally wasn't complaining to me. He was complaining about a restaurant, and all he was doing was tearing a strip off the poor cashier. And I just stopped him and I says, I literally asked him, now this was a guy in a business suit dealing with a fast food restaurant. And I interrupted the guy because he nearly had the poor cashier in tears. I said, excuse me, sir, but what seems to be the problem? Well, he turned around on me and he started telling me that this was wrong and that was wrong. And I said, wait a minute, hold up. I says, I think you made a serious mistake. And he looks at me and he goes, what mistake do you think I made? And he says, this is wrong and that's wrong. I said, I don't doubt that's wrong. That's not the mistake you made. He goes, well, what mistake do you think I made? I says, I think you actually think I care. I says, frankly, if you don't like the place, get out. Okay. There is no point in complaining to her. So if you don't like it, go away. And of course, he immediately looked at me and he goes, well, you're being awfully rude. I was very subtle about it. I looked at him and I said, golly, I thought I was getting good at it. I am not the one to talk to about diplomacy. Okay, diplomacy is a good idea. Like, do your best not to swear at people. If I'm in a good mood, or even if I'm in a basic mood, I don't tend to. Okay, but to the best of my knowledge, aside from one restaurant somewhere in the United States, I have never seen anybody, I've never even heard of anybody get promoted for being rude, for swearing at people. One restaurant down in the United States that I caught wind of a while ago, and I can't for the life of me remember where it was, much less what the name was, but it was touted as being the rudest restaurant in existence. And people literally paid to get insulted. The waiters and waitresses were taught to be rude. Now, there's people from every walk of life. I wouldn't go to a restaurant like that because I just don't like it. Okay, but some people apparently do. So again, this boils down to an issue of working together. We can make this a more effective world for everybody. Now, if you're of the mindset that God created everything, by whatever name you want to call it, if you're of the mindset that everything was created by the same individual, then think it through. That means every single religion out there, every sexual orientation, every skin color, they were all made by the same entity. Now, if that's the case, then it's time to quit looking at yourself and going, because I believe in this, I'm better than you are. Okay. Because frankly, there is not a soul on the planet. There's not a soul in existence that is of more value than the next. Now, absolutely, there are people that have more money than the next person. And Lord knows I don't have a lot. Okay, as a matter of fact, one of the few reasons I've actually managed to save money this month is because the restaurant I spend most of my money at has been closed for, 3 weeks out of the month. Well, actually, it was only closed for 1 week-ish. Okay. But because of things that I made decisions for, I just stopped going for a little bit. Now, the important factor from your standpoint is really cut and dried. Okay. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Take a look at the way your world is, and the way your life is going. Are you content with the way your life is running right here, right now? Because this is the only time in your life you can ever change anything. It's the only time you can ever do it. You can talk about things you wish you had done or things that you did do and wish you hadn't done in the past. You can talk about things you're planning on doing in the future. But the only time you can actually do something is right now. Okay. For past issues, you can't go back and alter them. For future options or future goals, you have to wait until the future becomes the present. When I was growing up, there was a really neat saying that went, today is the tomorrow you talked about yesterday. Today is also the yesterday you will talk about tomorrow. Making today, tomorrow, and yesterday the same point in time. Okay, kind of like you may be a father, a brother, an uncle, a grandson. Could be any one of these things, or all titles for the same person. Okay, same as you may be a wife, you may be a business owner, You may be a government employee. There's all sorts of different hats you wear, all sorts of different titles. But it all boils down to the same thing. It requires all kinds of people from every walk of life to work together to make this world run smoothly. Okay, when people realize that working together we can have a better world to live in. Okay, now it will only be better for most because there's always going to be those people, in all likelihood. No, not always. I've seen it happen in the past. Of course, I remember past lives. But I've seen it happen where greed and jealousy were bypassed. They were completely eradicated. Okay, but in today's world, even with most people working together, this will be a better world. But there are some in existence that currently look at it and go, well, I deserve everything because I'm more important than everybody else. And you're entitled to that thought. Whatever you do, don't confront me with it. Because the odds are I won't agree with you. But, just a forewarning. In the meantime, because I keep these videos to a half-hour run, if you're looking to get a hold of me, if you've got questions, or when you've got questions, if you look at the bottom of the videos, you will find a list of contact points to get a hold of me. Drop me a line. I will do my best to get in touch with you. I will do my best to answer the questions you have. Okay. You'll also find a number of other things, but the biggest issue from your standpoint is this. It is time for everybody on this planet to start working together. Okay, everybody in existence. When we do that, we can have the peace, we can return to paradise the way that people are thinking it belongs. Okay, or the way that people talk about. Okay, this is not for one group of people, this is for everybody in existence. Now, I keep this to, like I said, I keep these to half an hour, so I will be back again tomorrow. Okay, until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.